enhanced request configuration options, and support for self-pickup requests. This month we've added new rules in Alma that will help libraries control several aspects of request workflows. Now these workflows include how and when requests expire, how requests are displayed on the pickup shelf, and whether an unreturned item is considered missing if it has not been returned. So this feature is for general system and fulfillment administrators. In the Alma menu under Fulfillment, Fulfillment Configuration, Physical Fulfillment, Request Pickup Configuration. Now we can add rules. We do this by clicking Add Rule. We can give a name, description, and now we'll talk about input parameters and output parameters as we configure this rule. In the input parameters section, you can specify the components of the input parameters, which would be name, operator, and value. So an example of an input parameters could be user group would equal graduate student. So you'd pick the name would be user group, operator would be equals, and then the value would be graduate student. And you would then add the parameters. So let's do that. See, they've now been added. Now let's talk about the output parameters. In the output parameters section, you can specify the following parameters that are to apply to the indicated location, request type, or user group. All right, so let's talk about these. The first one is consider as missing when expired. So this is whether the requested item is considered missing when its due date arrives and the item is not returned. So what happens? How should Alma behave when that happens? So the item will only be considered missing when the request handle expiration step job is run. And the options here are either always, never, and the third option is only when expired by not due to date needed by. What that means is when expiration date of the pick from shelf process is defined according to the expiry time and not according to date needed by. Whichever one of those options, depending on how you want the user group that you've defined to behave when the time expires. So that's the first option. The second option for output parameters is show in pick from shelf list. And this determines whether the requested item appears in the pick from shelf list. The last one is expiry time for pick from shelf in days. So the number of days after which a requested item that is on the shelf is considered expired, that's what you would indicate here. For example, if you put 5 in this field, once the requested item has been on the shelf for 5 days, then the request is considered expired. The default, by the way, is 7 if no rules are set. Again, if the date needed by is earlier, then the expiration date will be defined according to the date needed by. So after you've defined all of these parameters, input and output parameters, you'd click on Save. And now you can see that the rule has been added. As with other similar mapping tables, if you were to have multiple rules, you could move them up or down, and whichever one would be above would take effect first. Now the changes here that you configure will only affect future requests. If you want to apply these rules retroactively for existing requests, you'd press the Apply Rules button. Thank you for watching Enhanced Request Configuration Options and Support for Self-Pickup Requests.